No questions. Whatever happened, well, doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it matter, Pete?
You're not getting hostile, are you? That wasn't on the agenda, that you should get hostile.
Honey Bunch, I'm not hostile. Honest. Now go on.
Well, if all this were something that concerned only the three of us, we wouldn't need to say another word. But I'm asking your permission to let me turn our private affairs into newspaper copy. My wife is suing me for divorce.
Dan.
She wants to bring your name into it. You see, Pete, they figure that in order to keep Daisy's name out of the newspapers, I'll sign away the right to see my children.
No, Dan, you mustn't. It'd be terrible for them. Marie especially.
So, I'm putting it up to both of you. It's not a thing to be decided without realizing what it involves.
Well, if they want to fight, we'll give it to them.
I'm sure we can lick it. I'll clear you, baby.
May I speak now, Mr. Chairman?
I suppose so.
I said it doesn't bother me, what's happened between you and Daisy. You see, I walked into this marriage with my eyes open. I knew what I was up against. It's a long shot, but I thought it worth the chance.
Well, wasn't it?
Oh, I can't complain. I pushed my way into your life, Daisy, because I needed you. Well, I'm fine now. Better than either of you. That's all there is to it.
That isn't all there is to it.
The only reason I was able to break in was that he didn't love you enough then. If I'd met you now for the first time, would I be able to break in?
I'll do my own thinking, thank you. And my own existing.
I'm all for that. That's why I'm leaving it up to you. That you can work it out without being bothered by my being around. I'm sort of a formality we can dispose of any time you give the signal. Don't want to be married on formalities.
How can you say a thing like that?
I didn't plan for this, baby. You ought to know that.
I'm almost glad it happened. It's nothing like a crisis to show what's really inside of people.
You don't mean that.
Don't tell me what I mean. Let's go. I don't like it here.
Will you like it any better in a courtroom?
Yes. Yes, I think I will.
We pause now for station identification. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
In a moment, we'll return with Act 3 of Daisy Kenyon. If you could see Miss Loretta Lewis, our guest this evening, I'm sure you'd be as amazed as I was to hear that her theatrical experience began exactly 16 years ago. You were just 3, weren't you, Lorette, when you answered your first curtain call?
Yes, Mr. Keeley. I appeared in a musical show that starred my mother and father. We made a complete tour of the Orient.
And then you came to Hollywood and were signed by 20th Century Fox. Do you like working in pictures as well as you like the stage?
I love my work at the studio. There's so much to learn. It's fascinating to watch famous stars before the camera.
You must have many opportunities to do that.
I saw them making Sitting Pretty. That's one picture I'll never forget. Imagine the sophisticated Clifton Webb as a babysitter.
A hilarious situation in itself, especially when he takes over the household of Maureen O'Hara and Robert Young, the children's parents.
Everyone in the studio used to crowd around to watch those scenes being filmed. It was a riot.
Maureen O'Hara plays a wife in Sitting Pretty that any husband might be jealous of.
Oh, yes. She's very lovely. You saw the picture, Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, and I agree with you. Maureen O'Hara looks more charming than ever.
I'm sure you know she's a Lux girl.
Naturally. $1 million complexion like hers must have the right care.
I know Maureen O'Hara always uses Lux toilet soap. She says it's a real beauty soap. Gives delicate skin the care it needs.
That's the reason 9 out of 10 screen stars depend on daily Lux Soap beauty facials.
From my own experience, Mr. Kennedy, I know it's a complexion care that works.
Well, Miss Luez, if your audience could see you, they'd understand why we say Lux girls are lovelier. Thank you for being with us tonight. I hope every woman who's looking for a gentle, effective complexion care will take this hint from Hollywood. See what the Screen Stars Beauty Soap will do for your skin. We return you now to William Keeley.
Our curtain rises on Act 3 of Daisy Kenyon, starring Dana Andrews as Dan and Ida Lupino as Daisy. For 2 days, the divorce trial of O'Mara versus O'Mara has dominated the headlines with a glare of flashlight bulbs directed at Daisy Kenyon. Now, in the crowded courtroom, Daisy's friend Mary is on the witness stand.
Miss Barnes, you said you've seen Mr. O'Mara and Miss Lapham together on several occasions.
Before she was married.
Before she was married. But you also testified that on the night Mr. O'Mara returned from California, they were again together.
Yes, it was a great surprise to me.
Why? Because you assumed her marriage had ended their friendship?
I knew it had.
You knew it had. Thank you, Miss Barnes. You're a devoted friend.
Counsel for the defense?
No questions, Your Honor.
Very well. We'll recess until 1 o'clock.
How about a picture, Miss Kenyon? Just one. Just take it one.
Lucille, wait a minute, please.
Well, Dan,
The kids, where did they go?
they left with Father.
Do they have to come to court to hear all this?
I'm acting under advice.
What about Marie? What's wrong with her?
What do you mean?
You know what I mean. She looked ill.
Well, she's been having a little trouble with one of her ears.
Why don't you take her to a doctor?
She's been to the doctor. He says it's nothing.
Did she have a blow of some kind?
No, it's purely a nervous reaction. Don't let me detain you, Dan. Mrs. Lapham seems to be waiting.
We can get a sandwich downstairs, Daisy.
Oh, let's wait till the courtroom's empty. It's been a little brutal this morning.
Building a case for the newspapers and nothing else. Oh, Daisy. Did you see Marie?
Yes, I did, Dan.
There's something wrong with her ear. I remember now how it must have happened. When Lucille first heard about you, she took it out on that child. I don't think she meant to slap her quite so hard, but... Oh, Daisy, forgive me for this.
Sure, baby. I forgive you. Now, come on. How about that sandwich?
Very well, Mrs. Lapham. Do you deny that before your marriage to Peter Lapham, you were in frequent communication with Mr. O'Mara?
No.
Now, during this period of friendship with Mr. O'Mara, how often would you go out with other men?
Object, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I only wish to point out that the events of the past form a very substantial background for what went on the evening that Mr. O'Mara returned to New York.
You're not entitled to establish it in cross-examination.
Mrs. Lapham, you've testified that your marriage was a happy one. Was that true on the evening in question?
Yes.
And on the following day?
I didn't see my husband the following day.
And is it not true that you and your husband have not seen each other since?
Object. I submit this whole line of questioning is irrelevant.
May I add something to that, Your Honor? I don't know if this lawyer has the legal right to ask these questions, but whether he has or not, I protest them. I protest them as a human being.
That will do, please. The objection's overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, will the witness tell us in her own words just what is the present status of her marriage?
Well, it's true I haven't seen my husband for some time. It has nothing to do with Mr. O'Mara's return from California. At least my husband said it wasn't important.
Your Honor, may I say a word?
If it's agreeable with plaintiff's counsel, Mr. O'Mara.
Certainly, Your Honor.
I request another recess
For what purpose, Mr. O'Mara?
for the purpose of a private conference with the plaintiff.
Very well. Court's adjourned until 3 o'clock.
Why did you do this, Dan? I could have gone on.
Maybe you could. I couldn't.